The worst call of my life came at 5:42 in the afternoon, while I was finishing fixing an old part in the auto shop where I have been working for almost 40 years. The phone vibrated in my pocket, and without looking at the number, I answered with the tired voice of a man who just wants to get home, take a shower, and watch a football game. But what I heard on the other end of the line erased every trace of routine calm and sanity. Dad. My daughter Emily's voice was broken, trembling. Dad? My husband hit me. He hit me because the food was salty. My heart stopped. What? What are you saying, honey? She sobbed. My mother-in-law saw everything and she said nothing. The world became an airless tunnel. My hands shook so much I almost dropped the phone. I do not know how to describe what I felt. It was fear, rage, helplessness, pain, and an ancient darkness, one I thought I had left buried decades ago, woke up in my chest. A part of me, the part I swore would never come out again, opened its eyes with fury. Are you alone? I asked already, walking toward the shop door. Yes, she whispered. They went out. I am coming there. Do not move. I did not wait for an answer. I left without telling anyone. My coworkers shouted something at me, but I did not listen. My whole body was moved by a single force: protect my daughter. I ran to the car, but before starting it, my gaze drifted toward the house, toward the small room where I keep things. I do not want to see things from the past. Things I promised never to touch again. I opened the door with trembling hands and walked directly to the old closet. I took out the box, the dark wooden box, the one that belonged to my father, the one I had hidden so as not to repeat his mistakes nor mine. I opened it, took what was inside. I held it with the same mix of fear and determination with which a soldier picks up a weapon after years of peace. As I closed the box, my reflection in the mirror showed me a different man. It was not the calm William everyone knew, but someone hardened by the pain of losing his wife and now wounded by his daughter's suffering. I started the car and drove like a man who has stopped thinking and only feels the urgency to arrive in time. Every stoplight, every curve, every horn I heard seemed like an eternity. My heart was not beating. It was pounding. If that bastard touched Emily again, I murmured through my teeth, God help him. But before continuing, I would like to know if you subscribe to the channel William's Revenge Stories, and if you liked the video. This helps me see that you support me and enjoy my stories. Now let us continue. I arrived at my daughter's building in 20 minutes exactly, although I swear it seemed like 20 hours. I ran up the stairs 2 at a time because the elevator was down, and with every step I felt the fury rising with me. When I reached the 4th floor, my breathing was heavy, and my hands were gripping what I had brought with me. I planted myself in front of Emily's door and knocked hard. I did not expect him to answer. I thought he would be gone, or maybe hiding. But what happened was worse. The door opened, and there he was, Michael, with his shirt perfectly fitted, his cold gaze and that air of superiority that always made me uncomfortable. His expression upon seeing me was first surprise, then mockery, and finally fear, because he saw what I was carrying in my hand. I do not know if it was my face, or the silent fury emanating from me, or the object I was gripping so hard my knuckles were white. But Michael took a step back. What is the meaning of this, William? He asked, stammering. I took a step forward. It means I came for my daughter. Michael swallowed hard. He looked inside. He looked at my hand. He looked at my face. And he understood that this time there would be no arguments, no excuses, no fake smiles. She is fine, he said quickly. It was just a misunderstanding. I clenched my teeth. Misunderstandings do not leave marks on the face, Michael. He opened his mouth to defend himself, but a noise behind him caught my attention. It was Emily. She poked her head out timidly, and when I saw her, my world broke. She had a swollen eye, a small cut on her lip, the lost look of someone who has cried too much. Dad, she whispered. That whisper was a knife in my heart. I slowly raised the object I had brought. Michael recognized it and went pale as if he had seen a ghost. William, do not do something crazy, he sputtered. The craziness, I replied, is raising a hand against my daughter. He backed away even more. He tripped over a chair. His mask of a strong man was falling apart completely. Emily was crying in silence. I could not hug her yet. First, I had to face the man who had destroyed her peace. We are going to talk, Michael, I said with a calm I did not feel. You and me. And I closed the door hard behind me. Michael backed up until he hit the dining table. His breathing became fast, shallow, and for the first time since I met him, I saw in him something like genuine fear. Not fear of me only, but fear of what that night was about to reveal. I said nothing at first. I walked slowly into the apartment while he moved away, as if he were facing a wild animal. He accidentally knocked over a glass while trying to keep his distance, and the crystal shattered on the floor. That sound marked a before and after in the room. The mask had fallen, and the truth was beginning to be breathed in the air. What did you bring with you? He asked, pointing with his chin at what I carried in my hand. I lowered my gaze to the object, a tool of my father's, a reminder of his character and of mine. It was not a weapon, but it commanded respect. In fear, a heavy ancient symbol loaded with stories I never wanted to repeat. I brought what was necessary, I replied without raising my voice. What a father brings when his daughter tells him she is in danger. Michael swallowed. You are exaggerating. Emily is not in danger. Hearing her name, my daughter took a step forward from the hallway. Her bruised face hurt me more than any physical wound I had ever received in my life. She tried to speak, but could not. It was as if the words were stuck in her throat. I got closer to her, but before touching her, Michael said in a clumsy tone, It was an accident. She always gets sensitive. She does not control her emotions. I felt a spark of fury ignite inside me. Michael, I said slowly, I'm going to ask you to choose your words well. Why? He dared to challenge, although his voice trembled. Why did you bring that object to intimidate me? I did not answer. I did not need to. He knew very well what that tool represented in my hands. Emily took a small step toward me, and for the first time looked me straight in the eyes. In her pupils there was fear. Yes, but also a silent plea. Do not do anything that destroys us. I took her gently by the shoulders. Are you hurt anywhere else? I asked in a low voice. She shook her head. I just want this to end. That simple and devastating phrase pierced me like a spear. I looked at Michael. My daughter wants this to end, I said with the dangerous calm of a man deciding another man's fate. And it is going to end tonight. Michael raised his chin, trying to regain ground. This is a couple's matter. You have no right to intervene. Oh, really? I replied, advancing a step. When a man hits my daughter, it stops being a couple's matter, it becomes my matter. Michael backed away again. It was a bad moment, a mistake. She exaggerates. Stop! Emily shouted suddenly. We both turned toward her. Her voice had sounded broken but firm, as if for an instant she remembered who she was before this hell began. Stop it, she repeated, breathing heavily. Dad, Michael, please, I do not want to keep quiet any more. My heart tensed. Emily lowered her gaze and spoke in a whisper. Dad, he did not just hit me today. Michael closed his eyes tight as if he had received a blow. What? I asked, although I already suspected it. She took a deep breath, fighting the fear. Then she pointed to a shelf full of ornaments and memories. Do you see that broken frame? She asked. I nodded. It was 3 weeks ago, she said. He threw me to the floor because I did not answer his call in time. She brought her hand to her split lip, and this was because the food was salty. Her voice broke. Dad, he has insulted me, he has yelled at me, he has pushed me. And his mother, she always says I provoke him. I froze. Michael opened his eyes suddenly. That is a lie. You know how you get Emily. She shuddered upon hearing him. No, she said with the threat of a voice. No more. I moved half a step closer to Michael. You raised your hand to my daughter. Listen to me, William, I asked you a question. I interrupted, locking my eyes on his. There was a long silence. Finally, Michael whispered, "It was only once." "Once?" Emily screamed through tears. "It has been many times." Michael turned to her, furious. "Shut up. Do not exaggerate." But before he could move, I stepped in between. "Do not talk to her like that," I said. Michael looked up at me, and for a second I felt him evaluating his chances. Whether to face me or look for another strategy, he chose cowardice. "This is not going to stay like this," he threatened. "You cannot come in here and—" "You're wrong," I cut him off. "I can come in. I can speak. I can report. I can take my daughter out of here, and I can do much more if necessary." Michael clenched his fists, wanting to show bravery, but his voice trembled. I do not—" "You do," I interrupted him again. "You have hurt someone I love more than my own life, and tonight you are going to tell the truth." At that moment, we heard the door open. The mother-in-law, Linda, walked in with an expression of annoyance. Upon seeing me, she frowned. "What are you doing here?" I took a deep breath. Another conflict was coming, but this time I was not going to tremble. Linda closed the door with a dry slam, as if she wanted the whole house to shake with her presence. She was a tall, bony woman with her hair perfectly pulled back and an expression that always reminded me of teachers who enjoyed humiliating students. She looked at Emily, first then at me, and finally locked onto Michael, who was pale as a ghost. "What is happening here?" she asked with a tone of authority, as if she owned not only the apartment, but also the lives that moved within it. No one answered at first. The tension was so thick it could almost be touched. I took a step toward her without lowering my gaze. "Your son hit my daughter," I said with the most controlled voice I could muster, "and not for the first time." Linda let out a nasal laugh, almost mocking. "Oh, please. Emily has always been very dramatic. If Michael raised his voice, surely it was because she provoked him. She has a weak character. No one drives my son crazy without a reason." Emily shuddered. Those words had been repeated to her so many times she was starting to believe them. That filled me with rage. "So for you, the victim is the guilty one?" I asked, controlling the fury burning inside me. "Victim," she repeated mockingly. "My son works all day. He arrives tired. Sometimes the food is bad or the house is messy, or—" She answers him back. What does she expect? That he smiles? "I expect him not to hit her," I said with an icy edge, "and much less that you justify it." Michael still did not speak. He watched carefully, looking for some sign of regret, some human trait peeking through his broken arrogance. But there was nothing, only fear of me and annoyance toward his mother, as if she were making the situation worse. It was in that uncomfortable silence that something caught my attention. On the TV cabinet there was a folder poorly closed, as if someone had checked it recently. A paper edge was sticking out. I walked over without asking for permission. "What are you doing?" Linda claimed, advancing hurriedly. I did not listen to her. I took the folder. I opened it. The first thing I saw was a photo. A young woman with a bruised arm. On the back, a name. Jessica. Emily covered her mouth with her hand. Michael took a step toward me. "That is not yours, William. Hand it over." The mother-in-law tried to take it from me, but I moved before she could reach it. I opened the second sheet. A police report. Date from 4 years ago. Domestic violence complaint against Michael. My breathing stopped. I turned my gaze back to him. "Who is Jessica?" Michael clenched his teeth. That was a misunderstanding?" "A misunderstanding," I repeated. "A police report is a misunderstanding." The mother-in-law intervened, putting herself in front of Michael, protective as if he were a child, accused unjustly. "That girl was obsessed with him. She provoked him. She sought him out. She invented things. My son is a good man." Emily broke down crying again. I felt my heart tighten. "Did you hit her?" I asked Michael directly. He looked up. For a second I thought he was going to lie. But something in my look, or maybe the weight of what had already come to light, forced him to admit. It was a heated argument. Nothing more. "Heated argument," I said, raising the report. "Does this look like nothing more to you?" Michael tried to get closer to take the papers from me, but I took a step back and raised the tool I brought with me. He stopped. "I do not allow you to threaten my son," Linda screamed. "And did you allow him to hit my daughter?" I replied. Emily sobbed. "Dad, please." I approached her. "Honey, listen," I said gently, even though my voice burned. He had already done it before. You were not the first. They tried to hide it, but the truth always finds a hole to enter. Emily shook her head slowly. I did not know. Of course she did not know. Because when one loves, one idealizes. And when one is afraid, one denies. I looked at Michael. "And how many times did you plan to repeat it? Until you killed her too?" Michael frowned. "Do not exaggerate." "Exaggerate," I said, getting closer. "You hit her over salt." "Over salt, Michael? What would come next?" He raised his voice. "She is not your family. You have no right to interfere." Emily screamed. "Yes, he is. He is my father." That scream froze us all, even herself, as if saying it. She suddenly remembered she had a net under her feet, that she was not alone, that someone loved her for real. Linda put her hands on her waist. "Emily, do not make a scene. Every marriage has ups and downs. You provoked him." Emily looked at her with eyes full of a mix of pity and rage. "I do not want to hear you say that again." The mother-in-law opened her eyes surprised, but before she answered, I decided to do what should have been done weeks ago. I put the papers away. I pointed at Michael with the coldest look I could sustain. "Michael, you are not going to lay a hand on my daughter again." "Oh, really?" he asked with clumsy arrogance. "No, because if you do—" I raised the object I was still holding. "I swear you will not have time to even ask for help," the mother-in-law shrieked. "I am going to call the police." "Call them," I said, bringing the folder to her chest, "and I will show them this. Let us see who they take away first." She stayed silent. Michael, too. Emily took a deep breath. It seemed like the first breath of air she had taken in years. I knew this was not over yet. It was barely starting, and that house for the first time seemed to realize it was no longer controlled by Michael, but by the truth. Emily remained still with her arms crossed over her chest, as if she needed to protect herself, even in the presence of those who supposedly loved her. Michael did not move, but I saw him searching with his eyes for some point of control, something to re-establish the dominion he had just lost. Linda watched him like a small child, unjustly scolded, incapable of accepting that the monster had formed under her own roof. I took a deep breath, trying not to let the rage cloud me. I needed clarity. I needed to hear Emily, to understand her, to give her the space that for so long was denied to her. "Honey," I said softly, "I want you to tell me the truth. Everything." Emily lowered her gaze, and for a few seconds I thought she would go silent again, but this time she did not. "Dad," her voice trembled, "I have lived with fear since the first months of marriage." Michael let out an incredulous laugh. "Fear. Please, you are dramatic, Emily." She did not look at him. She sighed deeply, as if releasing years of trapped air. "At first, everything was perfect," she began. "Michael treated me like a queen. Flowers, dates, sweet messages. I thought I had found the ideal man." She paused, but after we got married, he changed. Michael ran his hand through his hair, uncomfortable. Emily enough. She ignored him. It started with comments about the clothes I wore. "That is too short. Do not go out in that blouse. Men are going to look at you. Comb your hair better. You look messy." At first, I thought he just wanted to take care of me, but every day the comments were more hurtful. I closed my fists unintentionally. Then she continued. He started checking my phone. Every message, every photo, every contact. If I took too long to answer a call, he yelled at me. If I went out with friends, he said I did not value him. She took a deep breath. It stopped being affection. It became control. Then control mixed with insults. Michael clenched his teeth. "Every marriage has arguments." "Arguments," Emily interrupted with a thread of a voice that still cut like steel. "You call it an argument when you pushed me against the table because I told you not to talk to me like that." Linda opened her mouth, scandalized. "Emily, do not invent things. He only asked you for respect? Respect, she laughed bitterly. Respect is raising your hand to me over a broken glass. Michael took a step forward. That was an accident. No. Michael, she said, backing away, that was the first time I realized you were willing to use your strength against me. The silence became heavy. Emily hugged herself. I was ashamed to tell you. Dad, she added, I was afraid you would think I'd failed. That phrase went through me like a bullet. Honey, how can you think I would blame you? Because he convinced me, she said with tears. He told me so many times everything was my fault that I ended up believing it. Michael rolled his eyes. Dramatic, always playing the victim. That is your problem. I approached him slowly. One more step, Michael, I said in a low voice, and you will regret it. Michael stopped. Emily breathed again. And then, her eyes filled with tears. The worst came. I knew she needed to say it, even if it hurt. The night you almost broke my wrist. My heart broke hearing that. What? I asked, unable to contain my shock. She nodded. We had argued because he wanted to check my messages again. I tried to take my phone from his hand. He twisted my arm. I fell. I could not move my wrist for days. Michael intervened quickly. You tripped? You have always been clumsy. A cold fury ran through my body. Michael, I said slowly, stop saying everything is my daughter's fault. Because if you continue, I will not be responsible for my actions. He tensed up. Linda, alarmed, took a step forward to intervene. William, do not talk to my son like that. He only wants the best for his home. By hitting, by humiliating, by controlling, I asked. Emily does not know how to be a wife, said Linda with arrogance. Women must learn to lower their heads. In my times... I did not let her finish. In your times, ma'am's silence might have been common. But in mine, I do not intend to let my daughter live a life of beatings as if she were worth nothing. Emily broke into sobs. I ran to her and hugged her. I felt her shake. I felt years of fear escaping her body. She clung to me. I am sorry, Dad. Sorry for not telling you sooner. You have nothing to apologize for, I replied, holding her tenderly. I am here now, and I am not going to let this continue. Michael, cornered, emotionally tried a last defense. Emily, baby, you know I love you. I just lose control sometimes. But I swear I'm going to change. We can go to therapy. We can... She looked at him with an expression I had never seen on her, a mix of sadness, clarity, and finality. I do not want to stay with you, she said slowly. No more. Never again. Michael went pale. Linda held onto an armchair. You cannot leave him. You will ruin us. She wiped her tears. I am already ruined. Now I want to live. And in that instant, I knew something had changed forever. Silence was no longer her refuge. It was her liberation. I only had one mission now. Protect that decision with my life. Emily was still clinging to me, trembling as if she finally allowed herself to feel all the fear she had suppressed for years. Michael breathed fast, looking in all directions, looking for an emotional exit that no longer existed. Linda murmured nonsense, denying the reality in front of her eyes. The room, although lit, seemed dark, loaded with secrets that were emerging like snakes under the rug. I knew this was only the beginning. My daughter's confession was the first step, but the hardest part remained, dismantling all the lies Michael had built to keep her trapped. And for that, I needed proof, something impossible to deny. Emily, I said softly, is there anything else we should know? She separated from me slowly. Her eyes, swollen from crying, looked toward her bedroom. She hesitated a few seconds, as if the memory weighed too much, but finally she walked there. Michael took a step to follow her, but I got in the way. Do not you dare. He lowered his gaze. Emily opened a drawer and took out her cell phone. She held it as if it were a fragile, delicate object, capable of breaking with the slightest movement. She unlocked it with trembling hands. Dad, a month ago. I recorded something, she whispered. Michael jumped. You knew that was forbidden. He shouted, losing control. His mother looked at him horrified. What did you record? I asked. Emily opened the voice notes app. There were several files, but one was marked with a warning icon. She played it. The voice that came out of the cell phone did not seem human. It was Michael's voice, but a monstrous version of him. If you answer me like that again, I swear, I will break your face. Do not provoke me, Emily. I will kill you. Do you hear? It was so dry, so cold, so real, that I felt my skin crawl. Then another voice was heard, Linda's. If my son hits you, it is because you provoke him. Be thankful he only pushed you. Emily stopped the recording. The silence that followed was unbearable. Michael was red as a tomato, sweating. Linda had her mouth open, breathing agitatedly. I was trying to control a fury that burned inside me like a hot iron. But before continuing, tell me here in the comments what you think of this story so far and what you would do in her place. Do not leave the video, because what comes next will give you goosebumps. I took a deep breath. I looked at Michael directly. Was this also an accident? I asked, fighting the urge to break his face. She provoked me, he said, trying to justify the unjustifiable. Provoke you, I repeated with disbelief. Provoke you to threaten to kill her. Michael ran his hands over his face. He was crumbling. I was tired. She does not understand what my life is like. I needed her to respect me. Emily trembled. I respected you, she said with a faint voice. I respected you so much I stopped respecting myself. Every word was an emotional blow. I looked at her. Daughter, this is proof that can protect you. Emily lowered her head, still unsure. Michael seemed to suddenly understand the weight of the recording. You cannot use that against me, he shouted, desperate. That is illegal. It is privacy. I am going to sue you. Try it, I replied. And then the police will hear exactly how you talk to your wife. Let us see what they think, Linda intervened with a trembling voice. You cannot destroy my son's life for a moment of weakness. He did not mean to hurt anyone. Weakness, I asked, raising my voice for the first time that night. You call threatening death to your wife, justifying beatings, hiding past reports weakness? She tensed completely. You do not understand how hard it is for a man to carry a family, and you do not understand what it is to be the father of a battered daughter. I exploded. Emily stepped back, alarmed by my tone, but immediately understood it was not directed at her. I approached Michael. Look me in the eyes, I ordered him. He looked up with effort. Emily is no longer alone, I said. This recording is enough to start a process to protect her, to get you out of her life. Michael denied frantically. No, you cannot do that to me. I am going to change. I promise you, Emily. I am going to change. She looked at him, tired, exhausted. You said that the first time, she replied. He fell to his knees. A humiliated man, not repentant. A man who fears losing control, not who fears having hurt someone. He clung to the edge of the armchair. Emily, baby, please. She moved away. It was a small gesture, but for me, it was the biggest gesture of her life. I kept the tool in my belt. I did not need it. I had something more powerful in my hands, the truth. Honey, I said softly, we are leaving tonight. Michael raised his head suddenly. What do you mean leaving? She is my wife. No, I replied. She was your victim, but she won't be anymore. Emily took a breath and nodded. In that instant, I knew she had made the most important decision of her life, and I would do whatever was necessary to protect her. Leaving the apartment was not easy. Michael screamed from the floor, hitting the ground with rage like a child who just lost his favorite toy. Linda tried to block the door, claiming I was destroying a perfectly functioning family. Emily, in silence, walked behind me with a fragile but firm determination. It was like seeing a flower that, after years under storms, finally found a timid but real ray of sun. When we finally crossed the hallway and went down the stairs, Emily leaned her back against the wall of the building entrance. She closed her eyes, breathing as if it were the first time she filled her lungs without fear. Dad, What am I going to do now? She asked with a broken voice. We are going home, I replied. We will figure out the rest later, she hesitated. And if Michael comes looking for me? He's not coming, I said sharply. Not because I trusted him, but because I knew what I had in store. We got in the car. As soon as I started the engine, Emily saw the box on the back seat. She had not noticed it before. She leaned in a little and looked at it with curiosity and concern. Dad, that box, what is it? I swallowed hard. That moment sooner or later had to arrive. A piece of my past, I replied, one I promised never to touch again. Emily frowned slightly. What does your past have to do with Michael? More than you imagine, I said, starting the car. During the trip, she asked no more questions. Her silence was a reminder that she was not the only one with old wounds. When we arrived at my house, I parked in front of the garage and turned off the engine. Come on, I told her, taking the box. We went in. The air in the house was warm, familiar. Emily always said my home smelled of coffee wood and memories. That night, however, the atmosphere seemed charged with something else. Truth, the truth, that for so many years I kept hidden. I placed the box on the dining table. Emily sat across from me. Dad, I am ready to listen. I looked her in the eyes. She was my daughter, my blood. She did not deserve to live in fear, and to help her I had to face what I was. I opened the box, slowly. The smell of old wood came out like an exhalation from the past. Inside there were 3 objects, a thick leather belt, a large iron key, and a folded photograph. Emily looked at them confused. What does this mean? I took the photograph first. I showed it to her. This was your grandfather. She observed the man in the photo. A hard face, thick beard, severe eyes. You never talked about him because he was not a man to be proud of, I replied. She raised her head slowly. She expected a sad story. She was not ready for the truth. Your grandfather beat your grandmother, I said bluntly, and me too. Emily opened her eyes, surprised. Dad, growing up with a man like that leaves a mark. I lived my childhood hiding under tables, running to the woods trying to avoid him reaching me when he was drunk. And this belt, I lifted it carefully. It was his favorite, for discipline. Emily covered her mouth with her hand. Dad, I did not know. You did not have to know, I replied gently. I never wanted you to grow up fearing I would be like him. She shook her head. I never thought that. Never. I took a breath, but here comes the worst part. When I was your age, I also raised my hand, not against a partner, but against a man who was beating his wife in the middle of the street. It was an impulse, an instinct, and I almost killed him. I did not tell you because it happened many years ago, but I swore I would never use violence for anything again. Emily looked at me with a mix of sadness and compassion. Dad, you're not like him. I know now, I said. But for years I was afraid of becoming that monster. That is why I kept this box, to remind myself who I should not be. She looked at the old key. And this key. I smiled barely. It is the key to the shed where I hid when I was a boy. I carry it with me so I do not forget where I come from, and to remind myself that my past cannot repeat itself. Emily touched the key delicately. Dad, is that why you took the box when you went to see me today? I nodded. Yes, I took it to remind myself of something important, that I must not act with anger but with clarity, that I am not going to be like my father, that I am not going to use this belt to punish anyone, that I am going to use the truth, intelligence, and the law to protect you. She started to cry. I got closer and hugged her. Her crying was different this time. Not fear, but relief. Dad, she whispered, thanks for not leaving me alone. Thanks for not turning me into another hidden story. Daughter, I said, holding her tight. If I learned something from my past, it is that monsters do not disappear alone. They are faced. And that is what I will do with Michael. Emily took a deep breath. What are you going to do? I am going to start something he cannot stop. I replied, something that will knock down his arrogance. Something legal, something definitive. She stopped crying. She looked at me with a spark of hope. What is the plan? I smiled. First prove what he is, then take away everything he uses to dominate. Emily nodded slowly. I am ready, Dad. I will do whatever it takes. I closed the box. The past had been revealed. Now it was time to use it as strength, not as a shadow. So I said with a firm voice, let us begin. The next morning, Emily was still asleep in the guest room. Her breathing was calm, but her face had that expression that only appears after crying too much. I watched her for a moment from the door. She had regained a little peace, at least for a few hours, and I knew that brief respite depended entirely on what happened next. I poured myself a coffee and listened to the cell phone recording again. I listened with headphones, as if I needed to face that disgusting voice of Michael, to focus, to remember why I could not waver. Every threat, every insult was enough to sink him, but they would not suffice if he managed to play the victim or hide behind his family. With men like him, truth only works if it hits harder than his excuses. Mid-morning, I received an unexpected message. Michael, I need to talk to you, only you. Come to the house. This cannot stay like this. I stood still reading those words. There was no trace of apology, only an imperative, almost demanding tone. Emily was still vulnerable. I could not risk him coming here. If he wanted to talk, it would be on his turf, on my terms. I took the box not out of necessity, but as a reminder. I did not plan to touch anything inside, not anymore, but I needed its symbolic weight. I drove to Emily's building. Upon arrival, the doorman opened the door for me without asking. Maybe he already knew what happened, or maybe my face said enough. I knocked. The door opened instantly. Michael was in front of me, disheveled with dark circles under his eyes, his shirt wrinkled. He seemed to have spent the night without sleeping, but not out of guilt, but out of fear of losing the control he enjoyed exercising so much. Come in, he said, moving aside. I did not move a foot. Speak from there. He took a deep breath as if trying to regain composure. Look, William, what happened yesterday was an exaggeration. Emily was upset. You too. Neither of you is thinking clearly. We can fix this like adults. Fix? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Do you mean she comes back here? Michael smiled crookedly. She is my wife. Of course she must come back. This is her home. I watched him in silence for a few seconds. I wanted to see where that speech led. I understand, I finally replied. And what is going to happen when the food is too cold or too hot, or when a glass falls, or when she breathes in a way you do not like? Michael clenched his teeth. That will not happen again, I promise you, he said. But his voice was hollow. I do not believe a man who promises with clenched fists, I replied. He lowered his gaze immediately. There it was, the twitch, the involuntary gesture. Michael had his right hand tensed in the shape of a claw, as if he were containing an impulse. That was his weak point. Himself, his temper, his inability to control what he carried inside. Emily is not coming back with you, I said. His face changed completely. The mask of calm crumbled. Of course she is coming back, he said, advancing a step. She knows that without me she has nothing. You cannot offer her the life I give her. I offer her something better, I replied firmly. Safety. Michael let out a rough laugh. Safety. Please. She is fragile, emotional, dependent. She always has been. Without me, she would not even know how to pay the bills. Do you think she can survive alone? Do you think you are helping her? That was the moment I saw him. It was not an insecure man. It was a man who needed others to need him. His power was in making people believe that without him they were nothing. But far from intimidating me, that gave me clarity. You are not worried about her leaving, I said slowly. You are worried because you will no longer be able to control her. Michael petrified. Exactly. I had hit where it hurt. I do not control anyone, he replied, in a low voice, almost threatening. The recording says otherwise, Michael tensed up. That recording is illegal. It will not work. No one is going to arrest me for that. Maybe not for that, I replied calmly. But it is not the only thing I found. He went mute. I stared at him. I wanted to see if he understood there was more, that he could no longer hide anything. "Michael," I said, getting a little closer, "I know about Jessica." His face turned white. He leaned against the wall as if he had run out of air. "No, you do not. You do not know anything." "I know enough," I continued. "I know there was another report. I know you hid it. I know your mother helped make it disappear from the map." Michael blinked several times. His breathing accelerated dangerously. That has nothing to do with Emily." "Of course it has to do with her. Because violence does not start with a victim. It starts with a pattern, and you have it." Michael took a step toward me, but this time it was no longer an attempt at intimidation. It was desperation. "William, do not ruin my life. You already did." He clenched his fists. "You do not have enough proof." I smiled barely. "Believe me, Michael, I have more than you imagine. And I have not used half of it yet." He stayed motionless. His eyes moved fast, as if looking for a non-existent exit. "What do you want in exchange?" he asked finally. I can offer you something." That sentence turned my stomach. "I do not want anything from you," I replied with dignity. "Only that you stay away from my daughter. Forever." Michael lowered his head. "I cannot. She is mine." That word was enough. I opened the door. "Then justice will teach you," I said, leaving. Michael shouted my name, but I did not look back, because in that instant I confirmed he was not just an abuser. He was a man obsessed with control. And men like that always end up falling, when someone takes away their power. Returning home after that confrontation with Michael was like trying to walk with an invisible weight tied to my chest. I had not shouted. I had not hit anything. I had not lost control. But inside burned a mix of fury and lucidity I had rarely felt in my life. That kind of clarity that appears when one understands that violence is not defeated with more violence, but with intelligence, patience, and surgical precision. Emily was waiting for me in the living room. She had a cup of tea in her hands, and although she tried to look calm, her eyes accused the lack of rest. "Did you go talk to him?" she asked bluntly. "Yes," I replied, letting myself fall into the armchair opposite her. She waited. She knew I needed time to arrange my ideas, and she finally insisted. I sighed. He will not change Emily, not because he cannot, but because he does not want to. For him, stopping control is losing, and he is already desperate because for the first time he has no control over you. She lowered her gaze. She knew there was a long road ahead. "Dad," she said with the threat of a voice, "do you think he could do something else, something worse?" I stayed thinking about that question longer than I would have liked. "Yes," I replied at last. "He could. Men like him do not accept loss, and when they realize they are being cornered, they become even more dangerous. But that is why we have to act fast." Emily squeezed the cup between her trembling hands. "What is the plan?" I leaned forward. "First, gather everything we have. Photos, recordings, messages, the testimony of the neighbor who heard screams. The documents I found in the house. Everything. Every detail adds up. And then," she asked. Then I took a breath. "We are going to contact someone who can help us." She frowned, confused. "Who?" I got up, went to a shelf, and took an old cell phone stored in a drawer. It was an old device, one of those almost no one uses anymore. Emily observed it with strangeness. "What is that?" "A reminder of another time in my life," I replied. "A time when I made mistakes, but also made friends who remained in debt to me." I dialed a number I still remembered by heart. They took a while to answer, and when I finally heard the voice on the other end, a chill ran through my body. "Hello?" "Who is speaking?" "David. It is William." There was a long, heavy silence. "It has been years since I heard from you," he said finally. "And I hope you understand why I'm calling," I replied. "My daughter is in danger." David did not need me to explain more. "Give me the address." I hung up. Emily stood looking at me, bewildered. "Who is that man?" I sat next to her. "Someone who once saved my life," I replied, "and whom I saved later. Let us say, He knows how to move in places where the police take too long to arrive. But do not be scared. It is not to hurt Michael. It is for him to help us expose him." Emily breathed deep, processing the information. "Do you trust him?" "With my life," I replied. At exactly 2 hours, someone knocked on the door. Emily startled, but I already knew who it was. I opened. David was there with the same calculating look I remembered, although with more wrinkles. He wore simple, discreet clothes and carried a heavy backpack hanging from his shoulder. "William," he said, shaking my hand, "tell me where the problem is." I invited him in. Emily stood paralyzed, but I smiled to reassure her. "Honey, this is David. An old friend is here to help us." David greeted her with respect. Then he sat down, took out a notebook, and began to take notes, while Emily told everything again, this time in detail. What had happened? Since when? How had it escalated? What had the mother-in-law said? What were Michael's patterns? David did not interrupt. He only nodded or asked a precise question. When Emily finished, he closed the notebook. "There are enough elements to destroy him," he said with the tranquility of someone accustomed to facing worse beasts, "but it must be done right. If he suspects something, he can act impulsively." "He is already impulsive," I replied. David smiled. "Then we are going to take advantage of it." He took a small folder out of his backpack. Inside were a series of blank documents, forms, contact cards, a USB drive, and a device I recognized instantly. "Is that a new recorder?" I asked. "High fidelity," answered David. "We are going to need it for the next step." Emily squeezed her hands. "What next step?" David looked at her with deep seriousness. "Michael has to incriminate himself. His voice, his rage, and his threats must remain recorded at a moment when he cannot deny anything." Emily went pale. "Do you want me to talk to him again?" "No," I intervened immediately. "You are not going near that man ever again." David raised a hand, calming me. "Emily does not have to be present. She only needs to send a message that sends him out of control. He will do the rest." She doubted. "And if he comes here?" "There will be people waiting for him," answered David. "He is not going to get near you. I guarantee it." Emily breathed deep, nervous, but nodded. "What do I have to do?" David slid a paper toward her. "Send this message at the right moment, nothing more." Emily read the text. It was simple. Short, cold, an emotional sentence. "Michael, I'm not afraid of you anymore. I am not yours anymore. Everything is going to come to light." She trembled. "Is he going to get furious?" "Exactly," said David. "And when he does, we will have what we need." We kept silence for a few seconds. Then Emily took the cell phone, wrote the message, read it one last time, and sent it. Now it only remained to wait. David got up. "I'm going to prepare some things outside." "William, can I use your yard?" I nodded. He went out without more. Emily stayed looking at the screen. The 3 writing dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Is Dad writing?" I got closer. The answer arrived with violence, as if it had been beaten against the screen. "You are ungrateful. You have no idea what you are provoking. If you say a word out of place, I swear I ruin your life. You do not know who I am. You do not know what I am capable of." Emily trembled. "Dad, I am scared." I took her hand. "You are not alone any more, daughter. Now he is falling, and he does not realize it." As soon as I finished speaking, David entered again with another person behind a strong, silent man, with a firm gaze. "This is Paul," said David. "He will help us ensure Michael does not get close. Do not worry. They will not use violence. They are just here to guarantee nothing crosses the limits." Emily swallowed. "And if Michael calls the police?" "Let him call," answered David. "I have everything prepared to show the recording the past report and the threat he just sent. He knows if he involves the law, he sinks himself." I felt myself breathe a little calmer. "Emily, too. Only one thing is missing," added David. "Sooner or later, Michael will try to come here. When he does, we will talk to him. Not you, not Emily. Him!" I pointed to David. "And what are you going to tell him?" David smiled for the first time. "The truth but the truth told in the way he most fears hearing it, as if it were a coffin closing slowly. Emily looked at me. "Dad, do you think all this will work?" I hugged her. Daughter Michael always believed he had control, but today, control changed hands. And while night fell, I knew the most dangerous part was about to begin. Michael's fall had already started. What was coming now was the final blow. The message Emily sent remained floating in the air like a silent threat, a spark that with the slightest movement could burn everything. She stayed looking at the screen, waiting for another answer from Michael, while I walked slowly through the room, unable to stay still. David was in the yard with Paul, checking positions routes and blind spots, as if we were preparing a military operation, and in a way, we were. Not even 5 minutes passed when Emily's cell phone vibrated again. She took it with trembling hands. "Dad," he sent another message. "Read it," I said, getting closer. She opened the conversation. "Open your mouth, and you will see what happens. No one is going to believe you. I am the man here. You have no idea what I can do psychologically. You are weak. You always were." Emily brought her hand to her mouth, her eyes filled with tears. But this time it was not fear I saw in them. It was indignation. It was fed up. It was something that finally began to wake up. "Do you see?" she whispered. "He thinks everything stays the same. He thinks he can destroy me with words like always." I rested a hand on her shoulder. "Daughter, that is exactly what we needed. A direct threat. A declaration that he plans to continue manipulating you." Emily squeezed the cell phone tight. "Dad, I want this to end today. I want to free myself from him forever." "It is going to end," I replied. "I promise you." While we spoke, David entered the room. Emily straightened her back and hid the cell phone behind her as if she still had the impulse to protect evidence. David did not judge her. He only asked. Did he answer? "Yes," she said, passing him the phone. "Look at it." David read the messages with the calculating calm that characterized him. He nodded several times. Then he said, "Perfect. He is more desperate than I thought." "Is that good or bad?" asked Emily. "Both things," answered David. "Good, because the more he loses control, the more evident his abusive behavior will be. Bad, because he could come here looking to regain dominion by force." Emily went pale. "Relax," added David, raising a hand. "That is why we are here, Paul and I. We are not going to allow him to get close." At that moment, the front door vibrated. Not a strong knock, but a contained knock. One that did not seek to knock down the wood, but announced something. We all stayed in silence. "It was downstairs," said Paul from the hallway. "Someone just entered the building." Emily brought both hands to her chest. "Is it him?" she whispered. I felt my blood boil. David walked to the window without making noise and looked toward the front. "Yes, it is Michael. He is coming up the stairs." Emily started to tremble, and I put myself in front of her by instinct. David placed an arm in front of me to indicate he would handle it. "William, let me talk first. You will only intervene if I ask you to." "Understood." I did not want to obey him. My heart screamed at me that I should face that man, but my head knew something else. David was right. I could lose control. And the last thing we needed was for any impulsive action on my part to benefit Michael in a legal process. I nodded barely. Emily hid behind me. Paul positioned himself next to the door. The knock arrived. 3 strong, determined knocks. Emily shouted Michael from outside. "Open right now!" She pressed her lips together. The voice sounded again more aggressive. "I know you are there. I know you are filling your father's head. Come out now, or I come in." David stepped forward and opened the door decisively. Michael stood paralyzed. He did not expect David. He did not expect Paul. He did not expect Emily not to be alone. His eyes looked for me behind David, and when we met, his fury transformed into contained fear. "What is this?" he asked. "An ambush." David smiled barely. "No, Michael. This is what happens when an abuser thinks he can keep controlling his victim without consequences." Michael clenched his fists. "I am no abuser. My wife has emotional problems. She always has. She needs help, not this circus of clowns you are assembling." David raised Emily's cell phone. "Is this message also part of her emotional problems?" he asked. Michael recognized it immediately and swallowed hard. That means nothing." "It means enough," answered David. "And you haven't even heard what we have recorded yet." Michael tensed. "You have no right to record me." "That is illegal." "Illegal is threatening to kill a woman," said David without raising his voice. "Illegal is hiding past reports. Illegal is manipulating, hitting, controlling." Michael started looking around, searching for some logical exit. "This is a trap. You want to destroy me?" David came a step closer, a single step. But it was enough for Michael to back away. "We do not want to destroy you," said David coldly. "You already did it yourself. We are just showing what you always were." Michael turned to me. "William, please, you are a man. You understand how things are. Sometimes women exaggerate. Sometimes a man loses patience." I advanced a step. David did not stop me. "Michael," I said with the driest voice that has come out of me in my whole life, "I'm going to tell you this only once. My daughter does not exaggerate. My daughter does not imagine things. My daughter does not provoke your beatings. You are responsible for every mark, every insult, every threat. And today I took a deep breath. Today is the last day you will have power over her." Michael opened his mouth, but David raised a hand. Before continuing, he said, "I have something else to show you." He took a flash drive out of his pocket. "Here are your messages, audios, screenshots, documents, and a testimony that is already in the hands of an acquaintance of mine at the station." He paused. "Including Jessica's report." Michael went completely pale. That was a misunderstanding. She asked for help," interrupted David, "just like Emily now." Michael's breathing became asthmatic. He was sweating. He looked everywhere except at Emily. "This cannot be happening. You cannot do this to me. I am innocent." David tilted his head. "Then you have nothing to fear when we present everything to the police." Michael went rigid. "Are you going to call the police?" "They are already notified," answered David. "They will come today." Emily took a step forward. A single step, but enough for Michael to see her. She did not tremble. She did not cry. She did not lower her gaze. "Michael," she said with a soft but firm voice, "I am not afraid of you anymore." That phrase destroyed him more than any document. He backed away as if pushed. His face contracted in a mix of disbelief, rage, and defeat. "Emily, baby, do not say that. You love me. I am your husband," she denied slowly. "I loved you, but you did not love me. You only loved having me under control." Michael tried to get closer, but Paul stepped in without saying a word. That gesture sealed the scene. Michael raised his hands as if surrendering. Okay. If you want to play like this, see you at the station. We will see who wins." David leaned toward him. "It is not about winning, Michael. It is about justice." Michael clenched his jaw. He turned toward the door. But before leaving, he released a last poisonous phrase. "This does not end here." David answered without moving. "For her, yes." Michael disappeared down the hallway. The door closed. The silence was so deep it almost hurt. Emily broke down crying this time, not from fear, from relief. I hugged her. "Daughter, it is almost over." She looked at me with eyes full of tears, but with a new strength. "Dad, thank you. Thank you for not letting me fall any more." "Never," I told her. "I will never do it." David put away his notebook and spoke calmly. "Now comes the final part, the part where everything becomes official." Emily took a deep breath. "I am ready." And so was I. Michael had begun to fall, and this time there would be no one to pick him up. The door closed behind Michael with a slam that rumbled through the house. His shadow was lost in the hallway, but his final threat. "This does not end here," remained suspended in the air like a poisonous echo. However, for the first time since it all began, I felt no fear. I felt resolution. I felt we were closer to the end than the beginning. Emily, although crying, clung to me with a new strength, a strength I had never seen in her. David and Paul remained alert, but no longer tense. They had clearly identified what kind of man they were facing, and that facilitated the steps that would follow. I said what I had to say. Daughter, now comes the part he never imagined. The truth with papers. The signed truth. The truth he cannot manipulate. Emily nodded, wiping her tears. I am ready, Dad. David took out his notebook and opened it, like someone starting a surgical procedure. We need to formalize everything now. The faster we act, the harder it will be for him to counterattack. We sat around the table. Emily took a deep breath, took a blank sheet, and began to narrate in writing what she had lived. Her hands trembled at first, but then took stability. Every word was like draining poison accumulated for years. David guided her with precision without influencing, only helping the facts stay clear. Dates, behaviors, first, signs, escalations, screams, shoves, threats, everything. While she wrote, I watched her in silence. That woman who now pushed the pencil with such firmness was not the same one who hours ago cried in a corner, believing she was worth nothing. She was someone different, someone being reborn. Very well, said David, when she finished now. We need photos of the bruises. Emily closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and nodded. She stood up, delicately removed her blouse, revealing the bruise Michael had left on her arm and the cut on her lip. Paul took the photographs with a professional phone with the correct lighting, making sure no doubt could flourish later at the station. Perfect, said David. And now the recording. Emily opened her cell phone, looked for the audio. We played it in silence, although we had already heard it. Every word of Michael's was a rope tying him closer to his sentence. Linda's voice justifying him was another thread in that rope. This said David saving the file on his flash drive is enough to start an immediate protection process. And not only that, to open a formal investigation on him. Emily shuddered. Does that mean they will arrest him? It means, explained David, that he will no longer be able to get close, and if he has hidden records, as I suspect, the fall will be bigger than he imagines. He gave no time for more. In that instant the gate bell rang, once, twice, 3 times. Emily paralyzed. Me too. Paul approached the window and looked. He came back to us with a firm expression. It is the police. Emily covered her mouth with disbelief. The police? So fast. David put away his notebook. No, it was not me. Someone else called them. The question jumped into the air inevitably. Michael, some alarmed neighbor, an involuntary witness. It did not matter. What mattered was what came now. I went to the door. I took a deep breath. I opened. 2 officers were there, a man and a woman, both with serious but respectful faces. Are you William Ribeiro? Asked the officer. Yes, that is me. We received a report of a possible domestic conflict related to Michael Mora. Can we come in? Of course, I replied. We were just gathering evidence. The officers entered and met Emily pale but firm, David calm and professional, Paul rigid as a protective tree. It was a scene that spoke for itself. The officer approached Emily and spoke with a warm voice. Are you okay? Do you need medical attention? Emily denied softly. I am fine. Now, yes. The officer sat down and began asking questions. David took the floor where appropriate. I did it where I should, and Emily spoke when necessary. Every word she said built her freedom. Every detail demolished the empire of emotional terror Michael had built. The officer asked to hear the audio. We played it again. Michael threatening Michael, swearing to destroy her. Michael exhibiting his true essence. Linda justifying him. The subsequent silence was brutal. The officer took notes. This is more than enough to issue an immediate protective measure, he said. But first we need to locate Michael to formally notify him. Emily tensed. Could he come here? No, replied the officer firmly. From the moment the measure is issued, any approach will be a crime, and that would accelerate his detention. David crossed his arms. I suggest the notification not be here. He could get aggressive. Better to do it at his house. The officers nodded. That is what we will do. We are going there right now, Emily swallowed. And if he gets violent, the officer replied, do not worry, we have already dealt with men like him. He will not be the exception. And at that moment, we heard something we did not expect. The gate rang again, but this time just once. Short, dry, loud. Paul was the first to react. He approached the window. His expression changed. Is it Michael? He said. He is outside. Emily covered her mouth. The officer stood up immediately. Very well, we are going to notify him right here. Gentlemen, stay back. I put an arm in front of Emily, protecting her. David moved like a silent sentry. The officers went down the hallway. Firm steps were heard, a door opening, and then Michael's voice, shouting, What are you doing in that old man's house? My wife is here. She is mine. I have the right to talk to her. The officer interrupted him. Mr. Michael Mora, keep your distance. You have the obligation to hear what we are going to inform you. Michael let out a nervous laugh. Obligation? What obligation? She is my wife. No one can stop me from seeing her. The officer spoke with authority. As of this moment, you are notified of a protective measure against you for psychological violence threats and physical aggression. There was a dry thud. Michael had taken a step toward them. What? What nonsense is this? She is inventing it all. You are also notified, continued the officer, that any attempt to approach Emily Ribeiro within a determined perimeter will be considered a violation of said measure and will result in immediate detention. Michael shouted again. Emily, come out. Tell them you are confused. Tell them you are exaggerating like always. Emily trembled, but this time she did not back down. She approached the hallway. I tried to stop her. Daughter, no. Dad, I want to do it, she said with a strength she never had. Emily walked to the apartment door without crossing the threshold. Michael saw her. His face changed completely, from fury to pleading. Love, please do not do this. I am your husband. Emily raised her chin. Michael, she said with a serene voice, I am not yours any more, and you do not command me any more. He stretched an arm toward her, but the officer contained him firmly. Emily continued, For years you convinced me that without you I was worth nothing, but today I discovered that what is worth nothing is the fear you generated in me. Michael opened his mouth, incapable of answering. Emily, please. Goodbye, Michael, she said. This time, you are going to live with the consequences. The officers took him by the arm. Michael shouted, You will regret it. This does not stay like this. I am going to... Enough, ordered the officer. It is over, and they took him away. Down the hallway, down the stairs, out the exit. Emily breathed 1, 2, 3 times. Then she fell to her knees and cried, as if she broke and rebuilt herself at the same time. I ran to her. I hugged her, and I knew that crying was no longer from fear. It was liberation. David approached after a few minutes. Emily, it is done. The hardest part passed. She lifted her wet face. Really? Is it over? Yes, answered David. Now justice will do the rest. But you already took the biggest step. I caressed her gently. Daughter, I am proud more than you imagine. Emily smiled through tears. Dad, I feel like I can breathe again. And you will, I replied. Today you started your new path. David put away his things. In the next hours they will go to your house to collect more evidence, and in a few days they will summon you to formalize everything. But Michael? He stopped, smiled sideways. Michael already fell, and this time no one can pick him up. Emily closed her eyes, letting the words settle in her soul. I hugged her once more. After so many years, my daughter was free. Free to control her life. Free to decide. Free not to fear. Free at last. And while the sun fell outside, painting the street with a golden light, I understood something. The violence had ended. Not because justice was perfect, not because life was fair, but because a woman decided to reclaim her voice and a father decided never again to allow it to be taken from her. They say when one gets old, one starts seeing life with other eyes, as if time left a layer of softness over all things. But after what I lived with Emily, I discovered it is not time that softens. It is the truth. The truth, when finally it comes to light, takes away weight, takes away pain, takes away silences that sicken. And that truth, the one my daughter had the courage to face, changed our lives forever. Some weeks have passed since Michael was formally notified and legal proceedings began against him. I know hearings, declarations, and uncomfortable moments still await us, but now all that is no longer a hidden monster. Now it is just a process, a road to close a wound that was open for too long. Emily is more serene. She still has difficult days, but she no longer lives with fear. She can sleep without startles. She can speak without asking permission. She can look in the mirror without feeling her reflection is broken. I watch her while she recovers her routine, while she laughs again at small things, while color returns to her face, and I realize that seeing a child heal is one of the biggest gifts a father can receive. I never imagined that at my 66 years I would have to face demons I believed buried, nor that I would have to become again that determined young man who once fought to survive a violent home. But life is like that. It puts in front of you what you did not resolve, not to punish you, but to show you that now, yes, you are ready to defeat it. I also healed, maybe not as visibly as Emily, but I healed. I forgave myself for not seeing before what she lived. I forgave myself for keeping my own past in a box, believing hiding it made it disappear. Now I understand that box was not a reminder of fear. It was a reminder of strength, of how far I had come, and that I could still go further if necessary. Today I look forward with calm. I know the road is still missing, but that road no longer feels dark. And while I travel it, I carry with me the certainty that I did what a father must do: protect, listen, and stand up, even when legs tremble. Emily is free, and me, I am a grateful man. If this story moved you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Leave your like and comment what you thought of this tale, what you would have done in my place, and from what city you are watching us. I love reading every comment and knowing these stories reach hearts all over the world. I am William, and this was my story.